I'm Catherine Latham for Campaign Politics. Today we will take you into the riding of Saskatoon-Wanuskewin. The voting here is done by mostly urban residents. Still, the farming industry is strong. The seat has never been held by a Liberal. It's always been an NDP, Conservative, or most recently a Canadian Alliance. This time around, though, the Liberals say they have a shot. The man running for them is a star candidate. He's been handpicked by Paul Martin. He's also a former NDP Member of Parliament. Meanwhile, the NDP candidate says, wait a second, she's the front runner. And through all of this, the new Conservative candidate, who is also the incumbent, has some opposition of his own. A high-profile voter is telling everyone who will listen not to vote for the Conservative Party or Stephen Harper. It's 9:30 in the morning and the Liberal team prepares for a busy day ahead. They know they have a lot to do. In the 2000 federal election, the Liberals in this riding came in a distant third. Now former NDPer Chris Axworthy is hoping his name will help his new party score points at the polls.
At lunch, Chris and I are off to the Islamic Association gathering this afternoon. And then this late afternoon, evening, we'll send out whoever we can spare up to Martinsville, get some stuff cleared up there. In terms of kind of the overall staggering of where some of our communication stuff is going, as Holly mentioned, obviously the rural pamphlet is going out today, should hit mailboxes on Tuesday. We've got the 5 great reasons to vote Liberal piece that we'll have from the printers Monday or Tuesday, which we're going to have to schedule people to drop all next week and get that up to kind of the north of Circle Drive area of the riding. The national piece should be hitting City Park and the west side of the riding, if not today, then on Monday or Tuesday. So those are all going out. I guess the other side of this is for us just to continue in this last 10 days here to cover off as many areas as possible. I think we're certainly on schedule to have at least knocked everywhere, within the next 10 days in the urban portion of it, covered off the major towns. And then the flip side of us is for us to catch up on the phone banking side and fill in the blanks there and get ourselves organized on that end.
Let's first talk about your new colors. Why did you switch from NDP to Liberal?
Well, I had some serious misgivings with the general direction of the federal NDP before, even while I was an MP, and part of that was about the lack of pragmatism, the lack of trying to find solutions that were that might work for the challenges we faced. I wasn't very happy with the party, which was just oppositional and just focusing on attacks rather than on sensible solutions. I left politics after being in provincial politics for a while, for 3 or 4 years, and was back teaching at the university. Mr. Martin phoned me and asked me if I'd consider running for the Liberals, so I sat down with him for an hour or so, and his vision of the West and the commitment of the federal government and him particularly to the West and to the social programs that Canadians value was enough to convince me that this was not only a leader but a party that I could feel very comfortable in. So it took no philosophical shift. It was the combination of being progressive and practical that made me happy to sign on to Mr. Martin's team.
Was it an easy decision?
No, it's never easy to change parties. There are many personal kind of difficulties that arise as a result. People who you've worked with over a very long period of time, and those who will never accept that a change is possible. People change their votes all the time, but they find it, I think, difficult if you're kind of a die-hard New Democrat, in my case, to accept that you in fact could move to another party, even though the party that you were with before has changed quite radically. But for me, a party that offers 50-year-old solutions to today's challenges is not a party I want to be part of. Mr. Martin, on the other hand, has got a vast experience in the finances of the country, well respected overseas, especially in the United States, and somebody who has a major commitment to the West and to the social programs that are important to us all.
Why do you think that he wanted you? I mean, this will be a tough riding come election day. Was it the name? Was it, your background here?
I mean, I suspect you'd have to ask him, but I suppose it always helps if you've got somebody who's going to run, who's got experience. Perhaps it helps if somebody has been a member of another party. It shows a commitment from that particular part of the political spectrum to him and to the Liberal government and to the Liberal Party. along with Mr. Desange in British Columbia, the former Premier of British Columbia, and others, Glenn Murray and the former Mayor of Winnipeg. Obviously, a number of us felt very attracted to Mr. Martin's vision of Canada.
So, okay. Let's go drink some coffee.
Yeah, it's the beginning.
NDP.
On the other side of town, it's the party Axworthy left behind.
What do you want to do? Do you want to take your car?
First-time NDP candidate Priscilla Setti is known nationally and around the world for her work in community development. But with Saskatchewan's provincial NDP government falling in the polls, Setti knows she must work hard, and she's called on some high-power help at the doors.
And we should go around the block, and this would be corner done.
One of the big challenges we have in Saskatchewan is to bring Aboriginal people more into the mainstream in terms of education and employment, and we need people like Priscilla as representatives, and it's a big part of the future of our province that we do that.
One thing we've noticed in Saskatchewan is that a lot of people right now are unhappy with the provincial NDP's healthcare and education. Does that hurt someone like Priscilla at the door?
Well, it's when you are in government, you have the responsibility of bringing public policy to life. But I think it's really important that we get out there and we focus on the federal issues, especially around the equalization payments. That's very, very critical. And I know Priscilla understands that, and the whole Jack Layton team. In fact, it was in the paper today that the NDP response to that is the fullest response that the Premier has received.
What about health care? It's become a big issue in the federal election, and people are saying in Saskatchewan the cutbacks have been so severe, lineups for waiting times are even longer than in other provinces. How do you defend that?
Well, there's a few areas where lineups are longer than other provinces, things like orthopedic surgery, but the other side of that is that Saskatchewan does more orthopedic surgery than other parts of Canada. We have a lot of seniors. The number of those procedures has probably doubled in the last 10 years, and there are great demands on the healthcare system. But, I've been out canvassing in the federal election, and I don't think this is anything like the Ontario situation where the provincial government has really angered people. I think there's some concern, but when it comes right down to it, people in Saskatchewan know that if they have to trust any political party when it comes to health care, that would be the New Democrats. The New Democrats, of course, are the party that founded the Medicare system in Canada, and we've seen the Liberals cutting back on that for the last 10 years, which has caused a great deal of the difficulties we have not only here, but across the country. And when Paul Martin and the Liberals say that they're going to fix health care, they're talking about something that they've undermined for the last 10 years. And I think if we'd had more New Democrats in Ottawa, we wouldn't be having the same kinds of problems we have here and elsewhere in the country.
I'm a very well-known community person. I work at the university, and I do, my work is research and publications, and so people have known me in not only the academic world, but on the ground with community-based groups, both locally and internationally. So I am a well-known candidate.
This riding has been NDP, it's been Conservative, it's never been Liberal. Mr. Axworthy is trying his hardest to change that this time. Do you think he has a shot?
No, I don't believe he has. From what I'm hearing on the doorsteps, you're right, this riding has always been a two-way race between ourselves and the Conservatives. And so it remains a two-way race.
What are you hearing from voters knowing that he was NDP, went to Liberal? Are they upset?
People are disappointed that he switched from NDP and turned to Liberals. And so that's an advantage for us. But still our main opponent, or our main competition is the Conservatives.
Do you think that people are accepting that new party and accepting Mr. Vallicott's views? I know a lot of people look at him as a social conservative. Are you hearing anything about that on the doorstep?
I I'm hearing very little of the views that he holds as being held by everybody, by anybody. And I think what I've been hearing is, people are concerned about unemployment. People are concerned about, the state of the economy. People are concerned about human rights and, Medicare. And the young people certainly are concerned about issues like post-secondary. No. It was up for sale?
It was when we were there.
Oh,
But you too. Hi.
Hi there.
hello. I'm Priscilla.
Oh, how do you do?
I'm
Nice
the
to meet you.
new Democratic candidate.
Yeah.
And this is Dave Forbes.
Yeah.
He's the
No, I don't know if you've lived here long. I used to live up a couple of houses
Yeah,
here.
you look familiar.
Yeah,
Steve.
about 10 years ago, and I'm the MLA for Saskatoon Centre.
Oh, okay.
So I'm out campaigning with Priscilla here.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm your neighbor. I live in the next block,
Oh, you
823
is? Okay, well, it's good to know. In fact, somebody told me you lived around here, but
Yeah.
I didn't know that for sure. So.
Like we pulled this place 2 months ago
Oh, yeah.
after the writ was dropped, but
Yeah.
Anyway, do you have any questions for me?
Well, I guess, I still haven't decided how I'm going to vote.
Okay.
And toyed even with, refusing my ballot just to make a statement.
Yeah.
But,
Really?
so I'm sort of leaning to the Greens probably.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, my concern would be I want to see the back of Ellicott. So the other strategy would be to vote for whoever can beat him.
Yeah.
So,
Well, in this riding, it is a two-way race between myself and Ellicott,
Yeah.
and we know there's a lot of undecided voters.
Yeah.
So we're really
Yeah.
focusing. You can see that we do enjoy a lot of support through the neighborhood.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I just want to talk to you about some of the issues. What do you see as the biggest ones out here?
I think in this race, it is Medicare, honestly. I think that, if the Conservatives are to win this election, even as a majority, that we can expect to see more privatization, more cuts to, social spending, but particularly Medicare. So I'm very concerned. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I'm out on the doorstep, why I'm running. And the other issue that I'm personally involved in and concerned about is the state of agriculture in Canada, but particularly in Saskatchewan.
You said you're personally involved with that. How?
Well, I'm a doctoral candidate in agriculture and education, and as such, I really plan to put work on a federal agricultural policy that supports family farms and farmers to keep the income with the farmers as opposed to, big business.
Farming hasn't been as big of an issue as many people we talk to, because this is a huge farming industry out here.
Right.
It hasn't been a big issue on this federal election platform for any party. How do you defend that at the doorstep?
Well, I think that it hasn't been for the Conservatives or the Liberals, but for the NDP, we have a farming platform, and Saskatchewan is part of the breadbasket of Canada, and we also have a declining farming population. So if you go to any of the rural towns here in this riding, it's very grim. It's farmers that have been disenfranchised, farmers that have been pulled off the land, farmers that are actually poorer now than when they started farming maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago.
So what would you do about it then?
Well, I would establish an agricultural policy, and as I said to some of the farmers, the farmers are the best people who know what they need. And I've always been a person to consult with, I'm not big on having leaders make the decisions, but I am really a person who consults with the grassroots, and I would continue to do that. And there seems to be some optimism among the farming community for that kind of participation.
We tried to contact the Conservative candidate, Maurice Ellicott, for an interview, but his campaign manager said he was unavailable because he was too busy. So if he couldn't come to us, we decided to go to him. And we tracked him down at a parade in the small town of Hepburn.
Okay.
Hi.
Yes.
Is Mr. Ellicott here yet?
I'm just working my way toward the front of the line. I haven't seen him so far.
Okay. Does he usually show up for these things?
I don't know. I'm assuming that he would, but I don't know.
He said that he was coming.
He said that he was coming. Yeah.
Right. Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Have you seen Mr. Balacott today?
No, he doesn't come to most parades.
Pardon?
He doesn't come to most parades.
No?
No.
He's scheduled to be in it.
He is, isn't
Mm-hmm.
he? In fact, he usually has a truck and a trailer, and I thought that was him behind us.
He
I don't even want to be here. He comes, he's usually really on the roadside.
He doesn't usually show up to these things?
Not that many.
Leading off the parade, we have the Canada flag bearer, Deanne Fair, and the Saskatchewan flag bearer, Gerald Ham. And following, not too quickly, okay, Caitlin Fair. Oh, there should be some more horses here. So yes, Caitlin Fair. And, well, I'm not sure. I think we're supposed to have a few more horses. I'll just read the names. Bobby, Cody, Danae, and Josie Willems, and the whole bunch of bikes. Let's just slow it down a bit, okay? Here we have motoring around on their little jiggers. And, oh, here's Morris. Welcome here, Morris. Little out of sequence.
Hi there, how are you?
What's that, yourself?
Good, I'm Catherine Lathan from CPAC.
Hi, Catherine. How are you doing?
Good, how are you? How's the campaigning going?
I think it's going very positive. Our door knocking, and we've done some of this berm shaving with signage and so on, and that's been very positive. Yeah, we stick I call it a windshield poll in terms of numbers of honks and waves and thumbs up.
What do you hear on the doorstep? Supporting the new party?
Yeah, for sure. Biggest concern, I guess, these days, bar nothing else, is the issue of how the government's filtered the public purse right in the treasury. People put it in a little different terms. Some will call it outright theft. But I think that's the biggest upset, when they talk of the $2 billion, gun registry, the HRDC, $1 billion, $250 million on the Quebec ad scam. And that's the big thing, and then they'll tie other things into that. To them, it's just an issue of the malaise of government and inappropriate use of the tax dollars. The other issues coming up, I guess, at the doorsteps, certainly in the rural areas, it's agriculture, and our party is committed in terms of supply management, supporting that, and also the safety net programs for farmers.
None of the
Health is a kind of a perennial issue that comes up too. Right?
None of the major parties have made agriculture a big part of this election campaign. Can you respond to that?
Well, our party, I think, has been modest in terms of realizing that we need to support our farmers when there's issues or conditions outside their control. They need to be supported, And I think in terms of this area, valley area here, for sure, we've got the largest supply sector in the whole province in terms of turkey and dairy and so on. So I think we've made some modest, reasonable proposals. I think most people understand that in the history of the country, going back, federal and provincial governments that have really been supportive of agriculture have been conservative governments.
We had tried to schedule an interview with you, and we were told that you were unavailable.
Okay,
We
right.
tracked you down.
Okay.
Other networks
Right.
have tried and said they can't.
I have a campaign to run here, and journalism and media might be a part of that. But you have one vote each. In fact, you don't vote in the constituency, do you?
Nope.
Okay. So we kind of try to keep that in perspective. I need to get on the doorstep, meeting as many of the constituents as I can. And so that's kind of a priority for me, I guess. I don't want to get derailed, I guess, with some of the various other miscellaneous, the other things that are important, but maybe not the most priority kind of important.
Has Mr. Harbour's team told you not to talk to the media?
I can talk to whoever I choose to if I please.
You were the only candidate that said that they would not do it.
In respect to, I've done interviews, of course, the campaign here with
CPAC of our 47 ridings. Your office said you were unavailable.
Well, it could well be. I guess they know my schedule and where I'm committed to being on particular days and so on. And if that's what they told you, then I guess that was the case. I guess what I'm saying is I want to be available to media to the extent that it helps me, I guess, in the campaign. But if, in fact, I need to be getting on doorsteps and those kind of things, I don't want to be taking up time unnecessarily on that.
Doesn't it worry you, though, that the other candidates will do interviews and they may very well say that you won't?
We're doing what it takes to kind of get in touch with people, the ones that actually decide to come election day, and I think that's going to turn out to be proven to be the better part of wisdom.
There is another man who makes this race interesting. He lives just up the road here. And while his name may not be on the ballot, David Orchard is sending out a message telling anyone who will listen not to vote for Stephen Harper or the Conservative Party.
I'm down to the second last one on this side, so we start on the other one. You can see, like, inside.
All sprouted up in a little mass. You can make a salad out of it.
Yeah, are you into salad sprouts?
Got a damp drill here that's sprouted up a bunch of...
Tried to seed in the rain.
Our CPAC television cameras were the first David Orchard allowed on his property near Borden. The former Progressive Conservative Party leadership hopeful has become a well-known political figure in Canada. He is in the courts fighting the United Right movement and the use of the Conservative Party name. You have been unofficially in this campaign, I guess. You've been working it from the sidelines a bit. How do you see things nationally from here at your farm?
Well, I'm not really in the campaign. I'm a political orphan. As you know, I have no political home right now. And so the question of how I see the campaign is I'm very worried about this new party that's led by Stephen Harper. And I'm worried that there may be a reaction against the Liberals that will cause people to jump from the frying pan into the fire, so to speak. There's several reasons for that. This new party that Harper is leading has no constitution, has had no policy convention, has no accountability to its membership whatsoever. It's mailing out membership cards unsolicited. I got mine in the mail last week informing me I'm a member of the new Conservative Party of Stephen Harper. And so this and the policies that they're putting out, Stephen Harper has admitted that the policies of their new party will be essentially what he says they are. And when you look at the people around Mr. Harper, Tom Flanagan, who's made his career attacking Aboriginal people, when you look at the policies for agriculture, which involve dismantling the Canadian Wheat Board, which is our largest net earner of foreign currency and the only one of the remaining defenses left for Western Canadian farmers, their move to integrate us even tighter into the United States. They would have had us over battling in Iraq, Stockwell Day, and Mr. Harper wrote a piece attacking our government in a foreign newspaper, in the Wall Street Journal. And now they're trying to deny their words, but that's where they would have had us. So for all those reasons, for the independence of my country, I hope that they don't win. And one of the key issues that bothers me is the issue of French-English relations in Canada. I see a polarization that's probably as serious as it's ever been, with the Bloc getting support in Quebec and Harper's party in the West here. If they ended up with a minority being supported by the Bloc, we could see essentially the dismantling of our national government and our national institutions.
You refer to it as the Reform Alliance Party instead of the New Conservative Party. But is it an uphill battle fight out here? Because there, in the past, have been so many, both Alliance and Reform supporters. How do you change their minds?
Well, I think a lot of people out west here are voting against the government. I don't think many people are voting to support the views that in many senses are being put out by Mr. Harper, but people want to throw the rascals out, and many people don't know what they're going to be buying if they buy this new entity.
What do you think a vote for Stephen Harper would translate into then?
Well, it could translate into real problems for our country. If we see a minority Conservative government propped up by the Bloc will support the Conservatives for a price. And that price will be a dramatic weakening of our national institutions and more power to the provinces. We'll see more power going to Alberta, more power to Quebec, more power to all the provinces. And we're a fragile enough federation, and that kind of tension and that kind of destruction of the national government, it's the only institution that speaks for all Canadians, is something that I think Canadians will get if they vote for Mr. Harper.
So when he's not out in the field, this political orphan is doing interviews, writing newspaper columns, and answering calls from voters. Everyone is looking for his opinion. Many voters are actually calling him to know how they should cast their ballot.
This is the party that not only took over our party in a way that I consider to be fraudulent, it's also, as you know, seized $70,000 of donations that were made to my campaign as for the leadership of the Progressive Conservative Party. They've grabbed them, even though those are donations that belong to me. Peter MacKay is now declaring that he won't name the donor that's apparently come forward and paid off his campaign bill. So for this party to talk about ethics and accountability and transparency and honesty and attack the Liberals for these things, I'd say is a little bit like the pot calling the kettle black.
You've taken this to the courts. Is this just people outside looking in might say, you know, it's a case of sour grapes. You didn't get the leadership and it's taken off from there. How do you respond to those critics?
Well, I don't think it's a question of sour grapes. When I ran for the leadership of the party in '98, I didn't win. Joe Clark won. I stayed in the party. I was loyal to Mr. Clark and to the party, and I helped him fight off the reform attempts to take over our party, which began in 1997-98. The party has just kept going. I stayed in 2003. I didn't win. I backed Peter throughout the summer after our leadership race. I was completely loyal to him. When he threw the party away, I fought, as you pointed out. I fought to hang on to the party that created this country, the party of John Diefenbaker. I'm just 2.5 miles from the John Diefenbaker homestead here. The little school that he went to is just down the road. I think Diefenbaker would be rolling in his grave at the positions that Mr. Harper is taking in his name. Mr. Harper is now claiming that he's the heir to John A. Macdonald and Borden and Diefenbaker. These are men who stood for a broad, moderate, inclusive party. John A. Macdonald pulled the colonies together and created a strong central government to bring Canadians together. Harper's all about dismantling that. He wrote his article about the firewall in Alberta to give more power to the provinces, to dismantle our health care system, to do the things. John Diefenbaker bought that health care system, put it in place in concert with Tommy Douglas as Premier of Saskatchewan. These are the opposite. They've taken the name, they've stolen the name, half of our name. They cut off Progressive, kept the Conservative, and now they're advocating policies that are essentially the Republican Party, the right wing of the Republican Party in the United States. This has never been the tradition of the Progressive Conservative Party.
Some of the other issues are same-sex marriage. What's your stand on that?
It comes up here, and I've made plain, I think, if we're heading to free votes on these things, it's incumbent on the individual to make clear his position, to be honest and upfront about it. And I have, for a host of reasons, I think, the definition as it currently stands, which is to have it defined as between a man and woman, the historic, long-held definition is the better for society by far. If there's other ways to accommodate some of these other relationships, that's a different issue, but not to redefine marriage and change.
What do you mean accommodate?
Pardon?
What do you mean by accommodate?
Well, I think those are discussions that should be had, but in terms of changing the definition of marriage, as far as I get a read from this constituency in a big way, and my own sense of what's the better for the country is to keep that intact as is.
Does that mean you support civil unions?
Those are things probably to be discussed, I think, in the Parliament ahead. But clearly, I think Stephen's approach of pulling back the Supreme Court reference and having that decided by a free vote in Parliament is got to be the way to go. And therefore, I believe it's necessary for members of Parliament to be honest up front in terms of where they stand on that.
What about, if it came down to a vote, would you support a woman's right to choose abortion?
I'm an individual that I have grave concerns about the fact of abortion being possible all 9 months. They basically open season on preborn children. I am for women. I've worked, founder of a crisis pregnancy center in Saskatoon here on an advisory board in Regina, and I have worked with women, I guess, over some time. I don't judge them. Often they're caught in difficult situations, and frankly, I think there's a general sense in the public there's something a little troubling about open season on preborn children for all 9 months. So
that's not how it is right now, that women can get an abortion.
Yeah, there is. That is the situation right now. There is no law in the country, as I'm sure you're aware. There's no law in the books, no legislation at all. One of the few Western democracies with no law at all in respect to that.
And now you're into the countdown, only
10 days.
10 days left.
Yeah. You know, it's still a third
Yeah.
of what's left over. Sometimes you forget that there's still.
That's right.
You still have. If you still have a third of the homes to comb, you'll still be in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
But we've done most of it. By Tuesday we'll have everything done, I think. So.
Good.
And
Well, that's
I
good.
suppose that a lot are still undecided.
Yeah, the debate usually shakes people loose. They usually start to make their decisions. Not that they've read or seen the debate necessarily, but it's a kind of a time which says to them, okay, I got to start thinking about this. But they have 2 more weekends to sit down and actually go through it. That's usually, I think that's kind of what a lot of people do. They sit down with their other voters in the House. But
How did you feel the debate?
I thought it was good. I thought Mr. Martin, especially on those social issues and the things that divide the Tories from Canadians, I thought he was very good on that, very forthright. And I mean, I think generally people watch the debate and it reinforces their decisions, mostly.
Right.
But I thought he did really, really well. And I thought it brought out the differences between Mr. Harper and Mr. Martin. And because I think a lot of people don't understand what Harper's up to, I don't know what you think, but this is an agenda that would just tear the country apart, and yet he doesn't seem to have had a lot of scrutiny. I believe in a tolerant Canada where people should be able to do what they want as long as it doesn't harm anyone else. So this is a matter, I think, which we can work on in our Canadian way, which is to ensure that we respect people with different points of view. People don't have to agree with us in order for us to allow things to take place. So I'm fully supportive of approaching this issue and all others in a way which enables people to be able to live their lives as they wish, as long as they're not harming anyone else, and to do so without being pressured by the state.
What about abortion and a woman's right to choose? Do you support that?
I do, and I have done right from the very beginning, when I've always thought that was an appropriate response. That's an issue which has essentially been addressed in Canada. There are some who want to reinvent it, if you want, but it's a matter which is not going to change, and a matter which we might as well move on from. And it's also a matter which the vast majority of Canadians support. So one of the problems for someone who is arguing for an unpopular social agenda is to find a majority of people in favor of it, and we don't have that.
Which leads us to your opponent. I guess you can consider a social conservative. Do you think that will pull him back in this race by having those views?
Well, it'll be a question as to whether or not there are enough people who share his focus, which is entirely on these extreme socially conservative issues. Are there enough people to vote for him to enable him to win? We don't think so. We certainly don't hope so. We certainly hope that's not the case. But his agenda has been solely that. He's hardly raised questions of agriculture, of health care. He doesn't ask questions in the House of Commons. He doesn't give speeches, hardly at all. He's not in the constituency. He's not helping his constituents. So his focus is on that very narrow perspective. And my feeling is, and my hope is, and my knowing people in Saskatoon and the surrounding areas I do, my thought is that they simply want more than that. They want an MP who will work for them on a wide range of issues and not just have a narrow personal agenda which he is pursuing at taxpayers' expense.
He's one of our campaigners. I mean, one of the guys.
Right there it is, right there. Okay.
It's Clark. His name is.
Not Michael. Not Mike.
Mike.
Okay, he's your guy, right?
Yeah. Hi, Guy. I know this door is open. We're saying to youth, like young people your age, it's a good thing to really get engaged and even drop by the office if you want. Yeah.
We'll read about it.
Good.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Actually, she's got one, but I'll give you another one because I know the people upstairs, so you can talk to them about me too. And I'm your neighbor. I live just in the next block.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Any big issues you folks have?
Hello, honey.
Huh? Okay. I'm the Minister of Environment for Saskatchewan, and so we're working on a lot of good things. I think Priscilla is an excellent candidate, so come out and vote.
All right.
Good.
Will do. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
Bye-bye. What's his name? Bye, Seth.
Same-sex marriage. Do you support that?
Absolutely. You know, this is something that is recognized in the charter, and we have no business to think that, you know, our personal opinion or that of the Conservatives needs to be tampered with. You know, that right. So absolutely, I support it.
And what about abortion? Do you support a woman's right to choose?
This is an issue that's between a woman and her doctor. And I think that it should be left there, but it also needs to be recognized as a human right for, you know, women, for community. And my take on it is, I don't talk so much about that issue as I talk about, well, what kind of life are we providing for children once they're here in the world? You know, our track record is not great. We still have one of the highest poverty rates of a developed country in the world. And so I'm saying, like, you know, we may get all tied up in knots about this issue of abortion. It's a very emotional issue, but until people recognize that children have the rights to a stronger social support network than soup kitchens, then I think we're wrong on that issue.
When you see the Conservative candidate campaigning in his pamphlet on, you know, no to same-sex marriage, he supports, you know, anti-abortion legislation. How do you see that as a woman and as a candidate?
I see this as something that was deliberately brought on to divide the community. You know, it was so strong in the pre-election time, and I think that was deliberate to split up people who may be on the same side as, say, unemployment, poverty eradication, support for women's rights, support for workers' rights. So I think that the timing was very intentionally put, because it's torn some communities apart, including some of the religious communities. You know, I think people aren't fooled by that too. You know, at the same time that Vellacott is saying, well, you know, we think that the unborn have rights, what is he doing on the war in Iraq, where the children and the women are being slaughtered? You know, what is he doing to respect life on that war issue? And I say, you know, that's hypocritical of Mr. Vellacott to think that he can support, you know, the policies of George Bush in Iraq and then somehow have people, you know, convince people that he's on the side of promoting life. That's terribly deceitful.
Here in the small farming village of Borden, the opinions are as varied as the issues. And at the Friday Farmers Market, the talk quickly turns to politics.
Not smart like you. I'm still learning. Nobody seems to say anything. Everybody wants to fill their pockets. My opinion is I want a different guy to take from me now. You know, maybe he won't know how to steal as much. As fast. And by that time, we'll get another guy in.
Is it Stephen Harper then, or Jack Layton that you're thinking?
Well, when the election's over, we'll know. We don't want to give anything away yet.
You don't want to give it away?
No.
What do you
we want him to sweat it out.
What do you think of Stephen Harper?
Well, he's quite cool about it. But really, when it gets down to it, okay, Paul Martin says we don't want to go to Afghanistan or Iran or any of these countries, but our soldiers are there. So his policy is cut back on military, and the only way you can do that is you can save money by just buying body bags, because the soldiers haven't got a chance.
My big issue is the pension is too small.
That's a popular one. What do you think of Jack Layton and Priscilla Setti in this riding? What do you think of the NDP?
Well, I don't know Priscilla. I've talked to Jack, but I don't know Priscilla. I've never talked to her. She has never had a meeting in this area here. And since they've divided our boundaries, we're way out of reach.
So what do you think of Jack Layton and the NDP's platform then?
I think they're good. Yeah.
What do you like about it?
Everything. How he's, even if he's the third runner-up, you know, he's still, if how do you call it, when there's the two parties running, I think he has a better chance of getting what he wants.
Having a bit of pull with a minority government. A lot of people call him a social conservative because of his stand on same-sex marriage and anti-abortion. Do you support his views on that?
Yes, I do. Very much so.
Is that a big
for myself? Yes, yeah, it is. So
something that draws you to him a little bit more, that he's outspoken about that, or?
Not necessarily. I think I wouldn't vote Liberal because I don't trust them, and the NDP, I'm not very pleased with how they're running the province right now, I guess. And so it's not necessarily that, although I do support what he believes in that area.
Do you think the way that the NDP is running the province will have a big spin-off as far as the federal election goes? What are people feeling?
I think so. I think that's why the Conservatives are having more of an opening, I would say. I know if the next provincial election, I'd probably vote Conservative.
I don't think much of Valcott. Never did. And I don't even know who the lady is. And she didn't seem so bright. And, well, Axworthy, I know him a little bit, even though he was an NDP, but he's, you know, I think he has a little more on his shoulders as far as things. But, no, it's just one of those things, and where the chips fall, where they may. And the only thing I'm afraid farmers are going to get hurt regardless. I mean, it's tough out there. I'm fortunate. Never got very large. Never had to go into debt, but a lot of them went into debt, and the governments aren't helping any as far as these little handouts. You got to get it. I don't know what they can do, but it's hard.
So what do you think? You don't think, no matter what government gets in, you don't think they'll do enough for farmers?
You see, the worst of it is out here, the people in Saskatchewan, they have been always voting opposition. And they never thought that you got to get somebody on the government side to get influence. So here we sit, and we've only got, 14 seats? I think it's 14 federal seats. That's a drop in the bucket. So you don't have any pull. But I'll still keep farming, and I love Canada.
What party do you think will help this area, this riding the most? You mentioned that you're a little bit leery of Stephen Harper's Conservatives.
Well, the whole policy of it's called Conservative, but basically it's Alliance. A name change doesn't change a person's ideas. So you put the things where they are. I mean, it's just it. And I don't know who would do what for it, but something needs to be done. Whether it will or not, farmers will still keep trying to farm, but there are a lot that are in dire trouble. When you've got to start using your savings up, what you've saved for retirement.
So who will you vote for then?
Oh, I'll be voting Liberal. Oh, yeah. Sure, they've made some boondoggles, but I still think I have more trust in them than the others.
What do you think of the new Conservative Party?
Hard to say. They're talking good, but is the action going to be there when they're finished? You know, everybody promises you the moon and you get nothing, so we've got to wait and see. But I think they will get in. But I don't know.
What do you think of your Conservative candidate here, Maurice Valcott?
He's all right. He's been around for a long time. He's okay guy. I've talked to him a few times in Radisson, and he seems to know where he's going and where he's heading. But it's hard to say. Just depends on who blows the most smoke at you. You know, really, that's what they're doing.
What about Chris Axworthy now running as a Liberal? What do you think about that?
Don't ask me about him.
Why?
Because not one of my favorite guys.
Why not?
Because I don't think he's upright with the people. I mean, he talks a lot, but it's got to be out in front, and he's not. He kind of hides behind the screen all the time. So.
Is it things that he's done in the past in the provincial government?
Yeah, that's right. He goes right back to that. I mean, what's the difference? What are you going to do different when you're in there or in the other one? It's the same thing for them guys. You know, he's in there, and what are you going to do?
And what was it in the provincial government about him that you didn't like?
Oh, I'm not going to go into that. No. You got enough.
Have you decided who you'll vote for?
Not definitely yet, no.
How do you think Mr. Valcott's doing in this riding?
Probably fairly well. Everybody knows about him and stuff, I guess, so he's probably do all right.
What are the biggest issues for you?
My biggest issues? I guess it's more provincially than federal right now for me, with what's going on with the schools and stuff and how they're changing the school divisions. I'm on the school board here in town, and I'm not sure if you're aware, well, you probably are aware of what they're planning to do, like changing the divisions down to only 40 in the province and having to have 5,000 students within a division, and so it really affects our division here because we only have 4,600 students, so I guess I a little bit more provincially than federal.
What about health care and taxation, that sort of thing? Is that an issue at all?
Well, definitely taxes, because we farm and stuff, and so, back to with what's going on with the school and wanting to, the way that works and the way SARM and everybody's talking about withholding taxes, it's just, I guess, all that kind of stuff. I don't know.
And you said you farm. Do you sell cattle, or?
We do dairy, and we actually just sold our dairy quota, so we're going to be going strictly more into beef. So
is that a little bit dangerous these days, knowing that the border?
Well, the prices have come up a little bit, and you have to be positive that it's going to be a turnaround. It's already been a year already, so it can't be in the downswing forever. And it was definite. Well, it just was the change, I guess.
Do you think the Liberals have done enough to help out the farmers?
No. No.
Do you think that the Conservatives would?
I'm not sure. I guess we'd have to wait and see. All I know is that being for over a year with what was going on, like that there should have been some change in that already. Like it shouldn't be holding on. Like look how many people have gone down because of that.
Any MP or any candidate who's committed to building this nation has to find a way to work with First Nations and Métis people to strengthen their communities and to strengthen their participation in the mainstream economy. But it's not something that can be done in a directing way. It has to be done in a way which works with First Nations and Métis people. And there's incredible resources, both human and physical, in those communities, and we just have to do our best to kind of loosen it up and enable it to flourish. And Mr. Harper and the Conservatives are a major threat to the development of First Nations and Métis people, and the communities are very supportive of Mr. Martin. In fact, all in favor. I mean, there'd be very large voter support for Mr. Martin and the Liberal Party.
I know covering this election I haven't seen a lot of female candidates and an Aboriginal woman. Do you think there needs to be more women and more Aboriginal people in Parliament?
Absolutely. I think it's really overdue. I mean, and clearly in a province like Saskatchewan, we need strong Aboriginal voices. I mean, that's not the platform I'm canvassing on, but my background and my training and my connections with community is really essential in what needs to be changed federally. So
it may not be your platform, but in this riding there's about 4,200 Aboriginal voters, I believe.
Yes.
Is that correct? Which means a lot of the issues are probably important ones out here.
Well, absolutely. The Liberals have dumped the social and affordable housing program completely, and to me that's been a great loss in our community. Instead of dropping an important issue like social housing, we should be increasing it. We have in Saskatoon wonderful examples of wonderful homes, apartments, public housing, and I've been to many of them, and I know that, if it weren't for those, people would be living in slums, poorer housing.
What about the Indian Act? Do you support that?
The Indian Act is something that we are strapped with. It's, certainly reflects the era that it was written. But, it's paternalistic. But at the same time, I'm concerned that when the Liberal government is, proposing Aboriginal Governance Act or whatever they called it, again, it's done in the same with the same lack of respect, no consultation, no dialogue, just dump it on First Nations people, and that's wrong. We are equal participants. We should be viewed and seen as equal participants in any kinds of governance that affect us. So I am, like I said earlier, that I am a person who dialogues with people, and I expect the same out of my government, especially being an Aboriginal woman. You know, it's the Aboriginal women as a national record that are really getting higher education and really making the moves in terms of improving conditions. Not to say that the men aren't doing it. The statistics say that, you know, it's Aboriginal women who are predominantly in higher learning.
Speaking with Chris Axworthy, he said the Aboriginals are supporting him in his campaign.
No, he's wrong on that. He might have some support there, no doubt, because he's been the NDP, and a lot of his vote was brought in through the NDP. But as far as I know, I have had meetings with the chief and council and the elders from both reserves that are in this riding, First Nations, and we have overwhelming support on both those communities.
He said the same thing, that he's met with them as well and he's gotten support.
He has met them, but what he doesn't know is that they aren't supporting him, and he should really check his books on that accord.
There's a general agreement even among First Nations people, and I work a fair bit with First Nations as vice chair of the committee across the country, and that sense that that has to be in time done away with, has to be phased out, get to some decent self-government agreements, and have First Nations people take a greater responsibility for their own affairs. And I don't find too many people disagreeing with that. There's fairly uniform in First Nations territory and non-First Nations as well.
Mr. Martin, Mr. Goodale, all of us and our team, we want to help build Saskatoon. We want to help provide an underpinning for what Saskatoon needs. We don't want to tell Saskatoon what to do. We don't want to tell anybody in the riding what to do. What we want to do is be a partner in building this great city, this great province. And we've been out across the province and seen the infrastructure projects in all of the small communities. Over $5 million alone out there in all of those small communities that wouldn't be there if Mr. Harper was elected. So we have a major choice. It's a very clear choice between fixing, making better the Canada we love and are proud of, or throwing it all out and becoming an American satellite, a 51st state. Whether I'm on the government side or the opposition side, I intend to work as hard as I can for the constituents of Saskatoon-Wanuskewin. My focus now is to try to get elected, and we'll worry about what happens after.
But the thoughts must be a little frustrating. I mean, you've wanted to be part of the government party.
Well, yes, and I was part of the provincial government party, and I think managed to achieve quite a lot, and certainly you can achieve a lot of things on the government side. But you can also achieve things by working with people, and I've got a long history of doing that, and getting things done for individuals, for communities, and for the constituency as a whole. But plainly, when you're in politics, you're in politics to try to make a difference, and you can make a bigger difference if you're on the government side.
What do you think about Chris Axworthy switching parties from NDP to Liberal?
Well, you'll get interesting comments on the doorsteps in respect to that. It's the issue of some will say he's an opportunist. He's caused a fire before when he jumped off the federal scene to try to be a leader for the NDP provincially. Then he decides he wants to step away from public life, and all of a sudden, because he thinks he might have a good offer here, he comes back. But it's kind of bizarre. It's the first time I've seen somebody, swimming to a sinking ship. Most times people swim the opposite direction, and this is kind of a strange one. So people speculate on a bunch of reasons why. Maybe he's looking to be appointed a judge. They'll render different speculations like that. I don't really know. It just seems odd to me that stepping away from public life twice and then coming back now, I guess it does make for an interesting scenario.
Did you not run as a Liberal
I was
provincial
a
candidate?
provincial Liberal candidate when all the platform was free votes, fixed election dates, elected Senate, pretty much reform ideas on the provincial scene, and that's found its way into a variety of platforms on the provincial scene. Even the very thing that we've talked about as reform provincially did in that 95 election. The fact of fixed election dates, that's in vogue now, and everybody's actually discussing that pretty strongly. There's three provinces actually have that now as well.
Look,
David Orchard fit into he's a voter in this riding, and he's telling people to vote for anyone but Stephen Harper and the Conservatives.
Right. I don't know. You'll have to ask him where he's fitting on the scene. I suspect he won't be voting for me.
Do you think that hurts your campaign at all?
No, not really. No, not at all. No, he probably came out of another stream of thought in the first place, but no, that's not going to have an impact here.
Do you feel confident about this riding?
Reasonably so. We've got a job to do right through the end here, certainly, and we'll work hard and collapse at the finish line if that's what it takes.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye. Take care.
Meanwhile, Orchard won't say what his political future holds, or if he intends to form a political party of his own. How will you vote on June 28th?
Well, I think we have a secret ballot in this country, but I can tell you that I'm telling people for what it's worth to vote in whatever riding you're in Canada, to vote for the candidate that has the best chance of defeating the Alliance Conservative candidate.
You're not saying who you'll vote for. It just won't be Conservative?
It won't be Conservative. That's right. And for all the reasons that I've said, that I think that a vote for the Progressive Conservatives will not only legitimize the kind of anti-democratic regime that they've set up, but it could take our country into serious strife and difficulty, and I think we're on an important cusp in Canadian history, and so I will not be voting for the Conservatives.
So will voters decide to make history, or will they heed the warnings of David Orchard and not vote Conservative? Well, with so many undecided voters in this riding, it's too close to call, and it's safe to say none of the candidates here are taking this race for granted. In Saskatoon-Wanuskewin, I'm Catherine Latham for CPAC.